After the break, the Met's secret spy squads. An inquiry finds the tactics of undercover units were not justified. Tonight, the undercover police operations that used underhand tactics.
Women, join us! Women, join us! Women.
Through the decades, the Met's secret units spied on protest groups. An inquiry finds its methods, which included deceitful sexual relationships, were not justified.
It was my first sexual relationship. I have no idea who else knew. You know, it's had severe, lasting effects on my mental health.
Also on the programme, 92-year-old Dorothy was left on the floor calling for help for 20 minutes. Her family now want more cameras in care homes. The £100 million man, Arsenal and West Ham agree a deal for Declan Rice. Plus, he is a teacher. How the latest Indiana Jones baddie swapped lessons for lights, camera, action. Good evening. A secret Metropolitan Police squad that spied on people was not justified and should have been closed down. Those are the first conclusions of a long-running inquiry into a unit of undercover officers that operated from 1968. Campaigners say the initial findings are devastating for the police, the security services and government. The inquiry is looking into tactics which included women being deceived into sexual relationships, the use of dead children's names without their families' consent, and spying on justice campaigns, including that for Stephen Lawrence. Sam Holder has more.
Women, join us!
For decades, at protests like this, a secret Metropolitan Police unit was undercover. And they didn't just turn out for marches. They lived double lives. The Special Demonstrations Squad stole the identities of dead children and built fake backgrounds for their officers. They infiltrated left-wing and environmental groups, in some cases ending up in sexual relationships with those they were spying on. Jessica was an anti-hunt campaigner. Her main role was handing out flyers. She was told her first boyfriend, when she was 19, was a married undercover officer.
We were together for a year, some of which I was working abroad, but you know, it was my first sexual relationship.
You ended up in a relationship with somebody with a false identity, essentially. In your eyes, is that abuse?
So, you know, yeah, the terms raped by the state, you know, that's how it feels. You know, I have no idea who else knew. You know, it's had severe, lasting effects on my mental health.
An inquiry into undercover policing was set up in 2015. It's now published its first report, covering up to 1982.
The chairman of the inquiry was clear in his findings. When it came to the methods used by undercover officers, the ends did not justify the means. And if the public had known about this secret spying unit, it would have been rapidly brought to an end all the way back in the 1970s.
It was during this period Dave Morris was spied on.
Yeah, everybody considered these people to be friends. They made sure they wheedled their way into people's, affections. They often had vans and were driving people to meetings and so on, and compiling information and secretly going home at night and issuing these reports, which all went to the MI5.
The undercover unit needed annual approval and funding from the Home Office. Today, the Met apologised for its actions, but wouldn't confirm if officers have or would infiltrate environmental groups now.
Undercover policing is a very legitimate tactic, and that it saves lives and protects people from crime. What was going on 40 years ago bears no resemblance at all to how undercover policing is now in 2023. It is absolutely abhorrent, the activities of those officers in the sexual relationships that they had.
The inquiry will now examine how officers were trained and current undercover practices by the Met.
Sam, what is the timeline for this inquiry? Because there's quite a way to go, isn't there?
Well, Duncan, this has been a long time coming, and there's a long time left. It was first announced, this inquiry, by Theresa May, and it's going to cover undercover operations up until 2008. So it's going to look at what managers in the Met Police knew, what they sanctioned or didn't sanction, and also what the government knew and what ministers within government knew. It's going to be looking at how some decisions were made, some operations. For example, why undercover officers infiltrated the Stephen Lawrence Justice campaign. In total, it's going to cost about £64 million, this inquiry. It's been going. It was first announced in 2015, but we're not going to have those final results until 2026.
Gosh, a long way to go. Sam, thank you. A former Met police officer has been jailed for raping a woman he knew. PC Ireland Murdoch was off duty in September 2021 when he attacked the woman. He also searched for her name through the computer system and accessed a restricted crime report. He's been sentenced to 4 years in prison. 3 Just Stop Oil protesters have been charged after trying to disrupt a cricket match at Lord's yesterday. Footage saw England wicketkeeper Johnny Bairstow carrying one of the campaigners off the pitch before the game resumed. They'll appear at Westminster Magistrates Court in July. And the latest accounts from Buckingham Palace show it once again missed its 10% diversity target for staff. Officials say they're committed to making progress and have raised the target to 14% by 2025. The accounts also reveal the temperature in rooms at the palace was set to 19 degrees during winter to try to cut emissions. Next tonight, the family of a 92-year-old who spent 20 minutes on the floor after collapsing are calling for greater use of cameras in residents' rooms in care homes. Dorothy Selwood shouted and banged her stick before staff finally arrived at the home in Greenhithe. Her granddaughter, already having concerns, installed a camera in her room and captured what happened. John Ryle reports.
It's harrowing viewing for Samantha Thorne, the moment her 92-year-old grandmother got out of bed and fell heavily to the floor. It was more than 20 minutes before staff found her and left the room to dial 999.
How did you come on the floor? Eh? How did you get to the floor? I was in the bed and I got up and turned around to come out here. That was fatal.
Events captured on video because Samantha and her grandmother, Dorothy Selwood, had asked to install a camera in the room and the care home owners said yes. Mrs. Selwood died in hospital from a chest infection 10 days after the fall. After a year of grieving, her granddaughter is campaigning for legal change, new law requiring care homes to allow cameras when requested by residents and relatives. At the moment, care homes can and often do say no.
The night that she fell, we didn't know about it. We only saw the footage the next day. But we'd had a call at about 2 a.m. to say she's had a fall, she's gone to hospital. So obviously the next morning we looked back at the footage and saw exactly what went on. I feel that residents should have cameras in their rooms if it's suitable in that position for the family and for the resident. My nan did have capacity, she could make her own decisions, and she chose she wanted that camera in her room.
But opponents of the move are concerned about the potential for invasion of privacy, a concern shared by the National Care Association.
When this camera is on, the filming will take place when other members of the family visit, maybe having private conversations, maybe feeling a bit uncomfortable. What happens in those cases? We have to be really clear.
But for Samantha, there are no privacy issues if the cameras are wanted by residents and their families, and for her grandmother it meant contact and reassurance, and when this happened it meant Dorothy Selwood's ordeal did not go unrecorded. John Ryle, ITV News, Dartford.
Well, in a statement, Blossom Care Homes say they immediately carried out an internal investigation as part of our safeguarding procedures. A subsequent investigation was carried out by the Safeguarding Authority, which, although highlighted some areas of practice which could be improved, resulted in no findings of neglect. Arsenal, it's believed, have agreed to sign West Ham midfielder Declan Rice in a deal worth £105 million. The Gunners fought off competition from Man City for Rice, who will become the most expensive English player ever. Anton Allen has been looking at what the big money deal could mean for the club.
Rice, baby. His future has had fans glued to the news.
Welcome to Arsenal. Make sure you come and get some Just Jerk.
Reportedly, West Ham have accepted a record £105 million bid from Arsenal for their captain.
Come on, Arsenal!
The high hopes around his price tag will make his shirt be in high demand.
So excited for that. I'll be getting the jersey as soon as it comes out.
I think Declan Rice has been playing great at West Ham. They won the Conference League with him.
105 million people saying to me, oh yeah, the money was a bit steep, it was this and it was that. But in today's transfer market, yeah, you got to put the money down, innit?
Arsenal have a history of poaching other London clubs' talent and turning them into red and white superstars. Pippa, what's Declan got to do to become a club legend?
Mentality, a really strong mentality, and I think Declan has that from what I've seen anyway from him in the past couple of seasons. I mean, he rose from a young player at West Ham and went straight into captaincy when Mark Noble left, and he's a real leader.
Rice ended West Ham's wait for glory, but at the Emirates, the Invincibles' legacy means fans want to conquer the Premier League as well as Europe. Joel, was Declan the man to bring a title back to the Emirates?
He's definitely one of the components. There's still a lot of work to be done because City are also going to strengthen, Man United are going to strengthen, Liverpool are going to strengthen, Chelsea are going to come back at some point. So we need to keep going towards our direction and yes, going for the league.
Rice's Arsenal contract will be a British record transfer, breaking the fee Manchester City paid for England's Jack Grealish. A record transfer fee comes with it big expectations. Whilst at West Ham, Declan Rice followed in the footsteps of Bobby Moore by winning them their first title in 43 years. At the Emirates, he'll be under the shadow of the likes of Tony Adams. At Arsenal, they expect Premier League titles. If Declan's able to achieve that, then maybe by the end of his career, he'll be able to think, actually, I deserve to be immortalised in bronze. West Ham will have to spend Rice's fee wisely to avoid another relegation battle.
We've got players like Paqueta that we can really build a team around now. But if we don't show ambition and if we don't invest and we don't hit the ground running in Europa League and the Premier League this season, we're going to be struggling to hold on to more players in a similar way that we have to with Rice this time. So, yeah, it really is important that we pick the right players and make sure that they're fit for the job.
For now, both sets of fans are waiting for Rice's move to be confirmed. Antoine Allen, ITV News.
In other multi-million-pound news, Chelsea player Mason Mount has agreed a deal to move to Manchester United. The midfielder is signing a 5-year contract for just £55 million, plus £5 million in add-ons. The 24-year-old will be Erik ten Hag's first signing of the summer as he looks to strengthen his side following United's qualification for next season's Champions League. Still to come on the programme, one school's campaign for robotic rehabilitation for its students and we're joined by one of the new Indiana Jones villains whose life mirrors the film's main man. Before that, when we think of car pollution, the focus is often on exhaust fumes. But today, there were tests to look at how air quality is affected by particles from tyres and brake pads. In particular, what that does to cyclists with asthma. The results have been surprising, as Daniel Henry reports now from White City.
You can't always see it, but your lungs can feel it.
I've definitely noticed when I'm cycling or running out and about, I feel like my lungs are struggling more.
Pollution particles are a problem. Vehicles pump them out, we breathe them in, as cars stop, start and crawl their way through our capital.
Now, as a proportion of the total emissions from vehicles, the emissions from brake wear and tyre wear and what's resuspended from the road makes up over half of what's emitted from vehicles.
More than half?
More than half.
which is why researchers from Imperial College have got people with asthma on bikes next to a flyover to help them work out how dangerous tyre pollution really is.
This idea of tyres producing pollution, what do you reckon?
It's a bit scary, isn't it? It's like you try and do good and try and get electric cars to combat pollution, but there's always a negative, it seems. So I'd be interested to see what the results are for that.
They've also stationed at other locations across London and will be gathering data throughout the year. So what could this mean for drivers?
The easiest solution to air pollution is to stop driving, absolutely. We do, one of the signs, what we need to consider is we need fewer cars on the roads, not different types of cars. So electrification doesn't completely solve the air pollution problem.
What is the message to people who need to drive, who have cars? What are they supposed to do?
Well, the first step would be to use active travel whenever you can. If you're able to walk or cycle to your destination, absolutely do that.
Do you think that's realistic?
I think so.
Now that sounds stark, but don't panic. There are no plans to take cars off the road. Not yet, anyway. Daniel Henry, ITV News.
A school in southwest London is raising money for special equipment to help their students with mobility needs move around and walk. Most of the children that attend Beddlesford Special School are permanent wheelchair users. The school already uses robotic walkers to help students with everyday activities, but teachers say more equipment is needed. Cafo Patter reports.
For these children, everyday movements such as walking or even standing up isn't without difficulty. The school in Kingston uses a range of therapeutic methods to help students with physical mobility, and they say this walker is one of the most effective tools.
Some students who previously been unable to walk independently, who now can take steps independently because they've been used in the inner walk regularly.
We've got staff members in every team who are trained to be able to set this up. So it's got settings depending on each child's size. And honestly, it's so easy to adjust. Everything with an orange knob is adjustable, so you can adjust where the footplate is.
Every child gets at least one go on the walkers every week, and when they're on, good luck getting them off.
Are we happy? You like your walker, don't you?
And...
Oh, excited! Excited!
Wow!
Each of these walkers cost around £30,000 to £50,000 each, and you can see how helpful it is for the kids. The trouble is, there's only 2 of them across the whole school, and they're too small, so when Nico here gets bigger, he won't be able to use it anymore. No.
In an effort to cater to all students of all sizes, the teachers have launched a fundraising campaign to buy more walkers and ones which can accommodate their older children.
So we are taking part in sponsored steps, which recognises everyone's movements at Beedlesford, whether you use a wheelchair to get mobilising, whether you take steps in a walker, whether you take steps in a standing sling, whether you are fully ambulant. All movement is really valid and recognised in our school, so everyone's been taking part in sponsored steps over the week, including the use of the inner walk, to raise money for hopefully for our larger one.
So far the school has raised £50, which currently is a long way from their £50,000 target. But as they like to tell the children, slow and steady wins the race. Cafo Patter, ITV News, Kingston.
OK, the ITV Evening News follows at 6:30. Here's a look ahead now with Mary.
Coming up in the programme, the government's plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda is blocked again. The Court of Appeal has ruled that Rwanda is not a safe country to send refugees to. The Prime Minister says he disagrees and he'll take the fight to the Supreme Court. Tens of thousands march in France in protest at the police killing of a teenage delivery driver. And how the UK's first lithium mine plans to help power 500,000 electric cars a year. Would you join me for those stories and more at 6:30?
Next tonight, how does a teacher go from the classroom to a role in a blockbuster film? Our guest knows he was teaching English in Wembley when he suddenly and secretly got cast in the new Indiana Jones movie with Harrison Ford. Mohammed, it sounds a bit like Indiana Jones, doesn't it? It's having a day job and something secret in the evening.
That's right, yeah. It's very surreal, and the process for it was, as you said, very, very secretive. My agent got a call from a casting director called Kate Bowen in London, and she said, "We've just cast Mohammed as Ali Al-Fayed in The Crown, and we want him for this secret project. And they're going to send me the script to prepare an audition, which I have to do at home, video myself on my camera phone, send the audition in." And I couldn't even see the script. They sent me an email saying, you have to sign an NDA first, before you even see the lines of dialogue that you have to audition for. When I signed the NDA and it came through, there still wasn't a script. There was a secret website with a password, and the password expires after 24 hours. You know, a bit like Mission Impossible, you know. And it's only once I did that I could see the lines that I had to learn for my audition. And just one video audition, next thing I knew, you've got the part. Great, what's the part? We don't know.
Really?
That's how secretive it was, yeah.
So when you eventually did find out, what was your reaction?
Oh, I mean, I nearly fell over. But I had to sort of keep it together, do you know what I mean, Duncan? Because when I found out, I was at Pinewood Studios being measured for my costume. So it dawned on me while I was there, I was looking around thinking, oh my God, this is the new Harrison Ford and Phoebe Waller-Bridge Indiana Jones movie. And I thought, keep it together, act professional, you know, and I was like, right, okay. And it's only once I got back to my trailer that I sort of nearly collapsed and rang my agent, rang my close family and said, I'm in Indiana Jones, you know.
I've got to rewind a bit, because you're a teacher. How does it come that you've got an agent? You're trying to juggle the two things.
That's right. So teaching has been my passion for about 20 years now. And it's close to my heart because my father came to the UK as an immigrant in the 70s. You know, me and my cousins were sort of born here, and my sister. So our parents had to sort of struggle, and they went to schools where they could learn English. I don't know if you remember, in the 70s, there was an old show called Mind Your Language.
Yes, just.
Right. So for me, teaching English in the community to people who were in that same situation as my parents, it's very important to me.
Yeah.
You know, it's a way of giving back. And I have always been a film buff, always been a film nerd. I love all the old classic movies. I love all the old Indiana Jones movies. And as a passion, I thought, maybe after I finish work, I'll go and take some acting classes, join a drama school. But I never thought anything could come of it. It was just more like a hobby at the time.
So going back to the film, the hobby is paid off. Harrison Ford, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and a fight scene with the woman herself.
Incredible. I mean, I can't describe to you. Phoebe Waller-Bridge, first of all, what a lovely person. Just an absolutely amazing person. Very friendly, very down to earth. No airs, no graces. And we got to know each other so well during, because it took many, many weeks for us to repeat the same scene over and over again. So we got to a stage where James Mangold, the director, is about to say action. We're in position like this with our fists, you know, because we're going to do fisticuffs. And just before he would say action, we would G each other up, and I would do one half of a Shakespeare line, and she'd do the other half. So I'd say,
oh, you love it.
Once more unto the breach, and then she would say, my friends, you know, something like that. Or I would say, to be or not to be, and then she would say, that is the question. Then James Mangold would say action, we'd fight for a bit, and then he'd say cut, you know.
Do you know what? Getting beaten repeatedly by Phoebe Waller-Bridge is no bad thing.
It's a dream come true.
We're out of time, but listen, can't wait to see what you're going to do in the future. Mohammed, lovely to speak to you. Thank you so much.
You too. Thank you for having me on. It's been an honour and a pleasure.
My pleasure.
Thank you
totally.
very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, let's have a look at the weather, because it started out quite rainy and grey, didn't it? But the sun soon came. Here's Sally now with the weather forecast.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles. Car, charger and energy.
Hello, a very good evening to you. I hope you had a good day. It wasn't the most beautiful start, was it? But hopefully things are improving for you, and we have got some evening sunshine. Tomorrow it's the other way round, a brighter start but turning cloudier with a few spots of rain possible. Not expecting anything too bad at the moment, and temperatures back down to around average. Let's take a look at the details. So mostly dry this evening and some sunshine coming through between that cloud. Clear skies developing overnight, and there might just be a little bit of mist and fog to the south of Greater London. It's not quite as warm overnight either, so a touch more comfortable for sleeping, down to the low teens. So as we start tomorrow morning, the best of any sunshine or brightness. First thing, you can see that cloud filling in from the west as we go through the morning and into the afternoon, and it may well bring a few bits and pieces of drizzle with it. The breeze is also picking up through the day, particularly at the coast, so that will also take the edge off those temperatures. A bit cooler, 19 to 21 are the highs tomorrow. As we head into the evening, no real change, still a few bits and pieces of rain around, and we are expecting the temperatures to be a little bit muggier tomorrow evening. As we head into Saturday, after a cloudy start, things should brighten up. Saturday and Sunday brings us some sunny spells, but a bit breezy. That's the weather. Here's the pollen.
ITV London weekday weather is sponsored by Octopus Electric Vehicles.
Hello, summer. Piri sponsors ITV Pollen Count.
Well, hopefully the pollen wasn't too bad for you today with that rain in the morning, but I'm afraid those levels are picking up as we go through the next few days. Generally, as things stay drier, might be helped in any rain, and it's grass and nettle pollen. I'll see you later. Cheerio.
There we go. That is how London is looking. The ITV Evening News with Mary is next. But from all of us here, thank you for watching and have a lovely evening. Bye-bye.